We certainly are not the football team that I thought we were. You've got to play this game for 4 quarters with a mentality, and we just did not. For some reason, we thought we were somebody else. We thought we were the two-time national champion Georgia Bulldogs or something. I don't know what we thought, but we were mistaken.
Welcome to the Verde and Verdict Sports Show. I'm your host, Jacob Verde. Brutal season opener for LSU, to say the least. Let's start things off. LSU and Florida State kept it close in the beginning. 17-14 first half. A lot of penalties from Florida State. I would think that kept LSU in it a lot compared to the second half. 31-0 run to open that up. LSU doesn't even answer those points until the late fourth quarter when it seemed like the reserves were coming in and out. All in all, LSU looked annoyed. You saw Brian Kelly getting a little frustrated with Jaden Daniels at times. You even saw Malik Neighbors and Jaden Daniels communicating on the sideline. Malik signaling where he'd want the ball after a couple of JD5 miscues. Speaking of him, looking at the stats, 22 for 37, 347 passing yards, a passing touchdown, an interception. Look at Jordan Travis, 23 for 31, 342 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. If you take away the passing touchdowns, these two quarterbacks had a similar game in the air. However, much different times. At much different times did they perform. I think that Jordan Travis, his 4 touchdowns came at a pretty pivotal point. Keon Coleman destroyed LSU's secondary. And Jaden Daniels kind of, in the first half, started off explosive, but I don't think that effort went in to the second half. The takeaways I have, they need more execution on the offensive side of things. You saw us start off the game really quickly, like we said, explosive. They get out, they get after it, but they can't necessarily finish. It's not, a testament to what the offense is capable of doing all season. I think things were just kind of slow to start off. 3 of 10 on third downs, 0 for 3 on fourth downs. It's not going to get it done in college football. Nonetheless, the SEC, when you're a top 5 college football team looking at a potential college football playoff bid, I don't think you want to go 30% in any facet of any football game ever. But when we're talking about third downs, it's not going to go. Not going to cut it. Looking really rough out there. I think that another thing we need to focus on is the drops on the offensive side of the ball. You see not even just Kyron Lacey, but you see Brian Thomas get a little drop. You even see Malik Neighbors go down for the interception for Jaden Daniels. It's not like there's a disconnect here in the communication or, in the chemistry between the wideouts and the quarterback. I don't think that's the answer. I think, they might have just played a pretty decent defense that had them confused. I think Florida State is going to be one of the tougher teams that LSU plays all year, if not the toughest. So to throw them out there in the fire in week 1, I guess we shouldn't necessarily be too surprised, but things are going to have to iron themselves out quickly. Like Brian Kelly said, to put it bluntly, this just might not be the team that everyone thought that they were. They might have a lot more wrinkles to iron out, and they might have a lot more things to go through before they can inevitably get that national championship. I say that the offensive line's still rocky. 4 sacks for Florida State, 0 for LSU. One takeaway that I have for LSU's defense is the pressure. They did phenomenal. They were able to kind of get Jordan Travis off his spot at times, kind of make things muddy and confused him a little bit, but no sacks on the stat sheet. Florida State came away with 4. And if you take away Josh Williams' big 30-plus yard run, on 11 attempts from LSU's running backs, they got 14 yards on the ground. Their run game is atrocious in a sense where they're not able to push the rock. They're not able to get the first downs, especially on them fourth and shorts. 2 running backs did get in the end zone, Trey Bradford and Noah Kane, but each LSU running back had about 4 attempts, and Jaden Daniels had about 15 to put it into perspective. So they were splitting, the snaps on the ground. Some of those runs from Jaden Daniels came from, the pocket getting collapsed or a play not being able to develop. However, I think that they looked a little confused. They looked a little shell-shocked, and they tried to go back to, what they knew. And I think Florida State had that hemmed in well. They were able to pressure Jaden Daniels, get to his blind side, push past that offensive line. They're still pretty young. Both tackles are in their sophomore year. Big guys, big potential. They're going to be great players. I mean, hell, one of them is already wearing number 7. The thing is, though, these learning moments are going to happen, especially against a pass rusher like Jared Verse. Tom McShay is ranking him number 6 in college football playoffs mock draft for next year. So I think the best pass rusher versus a younger tackle, that's what you're going to expect. You're going to expect a couple breakthroughs. You're going to expect a couple, missed assignments. However, you're going to want to build off of them. Last year, Florida State's loss, I think, helped LSU in a lot of ways. So they're going to have to take this loss this year and apply it in the same manner. Let's go over to the defensive side. Where was Harold Perkins? It's not necessarily his fault that he was out of the scheme because, we see here career high 28 snaps in coverage. Only rushed the quarterback 7 times last night. You would think that you would want Harold Perkins running after someone like Jordan Travis all night long. You think that would be the difference maker. You think that would be something that LSU was missing last season that they were going to able to put in this year, but they had an answer for Harold Perkins. They were able to get him out. You saw a couple plays where he got completely taken out of the equation. There was other plays where he was, chasing him down, putting some pressure on him, but all in all was not able to get to Jordan Travis. Speaking about Jordan Travis for a little bit, that first half performance was interesting. He almost had 2 interceptions. If Greg Brooks would have came down with that second one, it was looking fairly shaky. It looked like Jordan was kind of confused, kind of rattled a little bit from pressures from guys like Mekhi Wingo, Savion Jones, etc. Then Jordan came in with the second half adjustments and completely lit up that defense. I think the secondary is going to be the sorest spot. They definitely need to tighten up in a sense where you can't have 2 wide receivers going for 100-plus yards on you. You can't have Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson going off for 9 catches, 7 catches, what have you. And then Keon Coleman with the 3 touchdowns. I mean, he gets 1 on Major Burns, gets 2 on Deuce Chestnut. It was a rough matchup. Yeah, he's a big guy, but going into this matchup, that's who you had pinpointed. You knew that Johnny Wilson was going to get activated. You knew Keon Coleman was going to get put into this situation. So I'm not saying that they should have stopped it, but it's disappointing to see the keys get blown away like that. It's disappointing to see Keon Coleman get every single catch or almost every single target that he wanted. He can just go up and go over anybody, and that spells trouble for our secondary in a sense where they're probably going to see a lot of matchups like that all year in the SEC with talented wide receiver rooms. So it might be a long season for them in a sense where they're going to have to learn and learn quick. Run defense still sore for LSU. You had a lot of fatigue set in for that defensive line. They were running around a lot, mobile quarterback. Also, they had to take a lot of the load. The corners were kind of, busting coverages here and there, and they had to try to put that pressure and put a stop to it and try to, make Jordan Travis think a little more. But when someone can run around pressure like that, or hell, they can even do a trick play and get a little pass to their wide receiver who can run away from Harold Perkins and throw for a first down to Johnny Wilson, it's hard to stop that. It's hard to go out there and, continuously play after play after play, try to swing that momentum when they're accumulating 31 straight unanswered points in the second half. It's kind of decimating to your character, your confidence. And you heard Coach Kelly say, we must have thought we were Georgia or something walking into here. It definitely seemed like not necessarily the energy was off, but it just didn't seem like they were pushing the pace the whole game. They kind of got nipped early on, and it seemed like it was just chaos ensuing there shortly after. Season outlook, I will say no team has lost their season opener and made the college football playoff, put it bluntly. No team has ever done it. I'm not sure if LSU's in a situation where they can do it. There's a lot of things to be talked about with what LSU needs to finish and do to be able to actually make this a manageable season. But if we go to a bowl game, if we can continue to put a strong recruiting effort out there and maybe even get a couple of big transfers, I think that Brian Kelly's assessment of a year 3 national championship push would be correct. He did warn everyone preseason. He doesn't think this is the year. Year 2's been quite lucky at LSU, but it just seems like with the situation, with the hand that LSU has dealt, it might be a little difficult to push out and compete with Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and several other teams. This could be the toughest team LSU played all year. The only other team I think that can give them a run for their money, Florida State, would be Alabama. I think that road game's going to be a little rough, but all in all, I don't think the SEC title's out of reach. You see last season we were able to manage with a Florida State loss. The fact that, we can still potentially beat divisional rivals such as Ole Miss, Bama, and even just conference rivals such as Florida. It looks like, their stock could trend upwards like it did last season. However, that college football playoff is probably going to be out of reach. Another thing I think might be hard to recover would be Jaden Daniels' Heisman hopes. He had a big weekend for a lot of athletes, whether it be, Travis Hunter, Shadur Sanders, Caleb Williams is doing great. But, Jaden Daniels' rough moment right here in a big test, it not necessarily wiped his chances, but it definitely bumped him to a different tier than he was previously in. I'm not going to say that LSU is on the way out, hit the panic button, things are going wrong, but it's definitely a lot different. Going into this game, if we won and we, saw flashes of greatness, everyone would have been talking about a national championship. Now we're talking about adjusting, regrouping, and seeing where the Tigers are going from there. So it's a little different, a little disappointing, but next week, new week, Grambling State will bring you some on-field coverage. We'll be there. We'll be live on the sideline, getting the photos, getting the B-roll, getting everything. We're going to have exclusive interview with Brian Kelly after the game. Make sure to stay tuned for that. Hit that subscribe button for more LSU coverage, and hopefully we could turn things around. Thanks for watching. This has been The Vernon Verdict.